Welcome to week 5, which is about media narratives. So this week we're going to look in this lecture at how we can actually analyse media discourse. So we're going to start to build a narrative toolbox. So how can we analyse a piece of media discourse? So we can do it in a number of different ways. We can do a syntactic analysis where we look at the narrative. So as it says on the slide, this is looking very much at the order and the structure, the syntax, what's actually being, what's happening as far as the structure is concerned, the overall thing, and the processes involved. Or we can do paradigmatic analysis. So we can look at the paradigm, we can actually look to see if there have been things put in place. Instead of other words, we can use semiotics, which is looking at signs and symbols and sort of themes that are in there. So this is the two ways that we can do it, using the syntagm or using the paradigm. So if we're going to do a syntagmic analysis, this is what Chandler says about it. So very much what structuralists do, they study texts syntagmically and they look at the syntagmic structures. So this is actually, as it says there, studying the structure and the relationship between its parts. So this means that we're not necessarily looking at the content as such, but we're actually looking at how has this been structured? What's the relationship between each sentence, between each phrase within the sentences, even within the words? What are the relationships between certain words? And, are we seeing things that are being repeated? What are the structures that are going on between paragraphs and so on? So absolutely looking at elementary segments within the text. So it's syntax. So this study of syntagmic relations actually allows us to find out what these rules of combination are. So, how has this been done? Is there a particular way that this piece of writing has been created? And of course, there are an awful lot of particular styles of writing, particular types of writing, genres of writing that follow particular structures. If we look at news writing, news stories, they are structured using an inverted pyramid. And we'll come on to that, particularly we'll be looking at that next term in Language and the Media too. Or we can have a paradigm analysis. So if we're going to do a paradigm analysis, again, this is from Chandler, Semiotics for Beginners, which is available online. It's in the reading list, and there are also hard copies in the library. So this is actually identifying the various paradigms, so the pre-existing sets of signifiers. So almost like the themes, themes that we would recognise as, oh yes, this is a particular type, it's a common paradigm, a common way perhaps of writing something. So this is still sort of a structural analysis, but it's considering the positive or negative connotations of each signifier. And remember, words themselves are signifiers. So, they signify a sound, particularly if we're thinking about the way that Ferdinand de Saussure talks about how words and sounds work, that they signify. A word written down signifies a sound that we make when we say that word. So this also gives us the opportunity to look at these, as it says, these existence of underlying thematic paradigms. So binary oppositions. So we have that pair, that coupling of words, public and private. So yes, that those signifiers there of those letters, they make that sound, public and private, but also there are, on top of that basic signifier that letters, words signify particular sounds, we have those words, whether it's sound or whether it's text, actually having additional connotations. So, we understand that when we put the words public and private together in a sentence, or in a paragraph, that we're actually talking about binary oppositions, things against one another, that these are opposites. So what does that do to the sentence? What does that do to the writing? What are we looking at? So paradigm relations, these are the oppositions, the contrasts between those signifiers that belong to the same set from which those used in the text were drawn. So we're talking about using a similar type of semantic field. So, words that all are related to one another. Can we pick that out? Can we pick out what paradigm is being used here? Can we see that this article, for example, perhaps has lots and lots of negative connotations that fit into a particular paradigm? So we can change the paradigm. So these, as you can see, are nursery rhymes retold for adults. And so we're using the same sort of structure, but actually what we're getting there is a change in the paradigm. So the words that are being used are changed, and then that gives us a completely new retelling, even though the same structure is being used. So the first one there, hickory dickory dock. Now normally we would expect that to continue, the mouse ran up the clock, and we have that echoed in the image there. We can see this mouse that looks suspiciously more like a rat, but we can see that, and we have that that line that's some sort of plant that sort of guides our eye up to the top of the clock. So the echo of that nursery rhyme is there. Hickory dickory dock, the mouse ran up the clock. The clock struck 1, and it's 5 to 1 there on the clock, and then the mouse ran down, and so on. But instead we have the text being changed to hickory dickory dock, everyone I dated such a cock. So we've still got the rhyme, the rhythm, but a completely different retelling, totally different, a completely different paradigm being used. And then the other one, little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet, and normally the nursery rhyme continues on about eating her curds and whey. Along came a spider who sat down beside her and frightened Miss Muffet away. So we have a nice sort of simple rhyme, and sort of reference apparently to Miss Muffet, who was, I believe, supposedly the daughter of a scientist who essentially terrified his daughter with spiders. But here we have it being retold, and the paradigm being changed, and instead contextualizing it in the modern day. So with more concerns that we have now. So little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet eating her quinoa and kale. Along came a spider who sat down beside her, and Miss Muffet called the exterminator. So we've also got there the structure, the rhyme, the rhythm being broken up. Instead of little Miss Muffet ran away, we've got, or was frightened away, we have called the exterminator, which that has sort of an American twist on it too, because we don't tend to call pest control an exterminator. So yeah, we've got an Americanism coming in there, but we also have there in that third line, eating her quinoa and kale. So signalling to us that this is somebody who is eating sort of foods that are perceived at the moment as being very fashionable, very trendy, and then Miss Muffet, is perhaps vegan or vegetarian because she's eating quinoa and kale, but then she still calls pest control and exterminator to kill the spider. So, we've got definite binaries going on there, oppositions. Okay, so we're going to pause it there, and we're going to then, when we come back in a few moments, we're going to look at focalization. So we've looked at paradigms and structure, the syntagms so far, and an awful lot of this is dealt with in the reading that's in the extended reading from Michael Toolan. That's available online. It's an ebook, so do go and have a look at that now, and really sort of get to grips with the idea of having the structure, the syntagm, and then the paradigm. So actually, where the words are drawn from within the text, and what is that telling us?